Hello, everyone. Welcome to Durrett. I wasn't planning on doing a special episode, but there's been a big topic that's kind of been discussed a lot recently in college football with the playoff format. What should it be and all that? Because the Big Ten, they want the format of automatic qualifiers, where you get four Big Ten teams, four SEC teams, two Big 12, two ACC, one Group of Five, and then one at large, and then it would go to the 16 team format. And then the other format is the 5-11 model. So, the four power conference champions and the one Group 5 champion get the auto bids, and then the 11 spots are all for just at large candidates. So, and then there's been other theories technically, but for the most part, those are the two ones that are floating around right now. And then the both scenarios would be 16 team playoff. So the Big 12 and the SEC support, the 5+11 model, but the Big 10, wants automatic qualifiers. So we'll see who comes around to what first. But it's got me thinking about, okay, what format would be the best for college football? I feel like having a format where it's predetermined automatic qualifiers, or when one conference gets one automatic qualifiers than another, that's just not good for the sport. Like, imagine college basketball if the Big 12 and had more automatic qualifiers, than the Big East or the Big 10 or AC. Like, it just doesn't really make any sense there. It's like, the conference champions, of course, you get in, but other than that, it should be based off your resume, for the other at-large candidates. So, I am for the 5-11 model. Now, I understand that the 5-11 model is not perfect. And do you know why? Because of the selection committee. The selection committee, time and time again, has shown biasness towards the SEC Big Ten. It was actually surprising. I was actually surprised that they kept SMU in that final playoff spot over in Alabama. And I understand the reason for why they did that. But it's just time and time again. Like, for example, Indiana, based off their schedule, I know they only had one loss. I understand that. But based on their schedule, they should not have been a playoff team whatsoever. But because they're in the Big Ten, they get the benefit of the doubt. So to me, if you're going to have the 5-11 model, which I prefer, then obviously things need to be redone or canceled, so to speak, and redo. So there are a couple of things that have been floating around in my head about, okay, how can we make the 5-11 model work if that's the route we're going to go? Because I understand you want to give the committee the least amount of stuff to do as possible. So, option number one, do what college basketball does. And what college basketball does is that they have their net rankings. And net rankings include a bunch of things like, the efficiency, offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency, playing at home, playing away, records against quad 1, quad 2 opponents, which obviously it's hard to really do in football, the quad 1, quad 2s and all that. But you can rework it or adjust it for college football. Because net takes account of mostly every single thing college basketball is, and that's where the net rankings are come up with. Because obviously there are teams that have high net rankings that may not have a good record overall. So I feel like if college basketball should apply that, and obviously it doesn't mean like if a team has a higher net ranking, you have to automatically pick them, but it's a good precursor to be like, okay, based off their net ranking, if we're debating about this team or this team, then the net ranking could be a good tiebreaker type of thing. That's what I would do. Now, I doubt that the college football will get a net ranking system. I hope we do, but I doubt we will. So, assuming we don't, here is another option that I thought of. We go back to the BCS rankings. Maybe like, oh, no, let's not do that. Well, the reason why we did not like the BCS rankings was because only 2 teams got to play for the championship. Now that we got 16 teams in the playoff, people aren't going to care about, that 17th team, is left, people aren't going to care about that. So, and the BCS rankings did a decent job of figuring out the right team. Now, obviously, like, because again, there was only 2 spots, certain teams got left out that, potentially shouldn't have gotten left out of the championship game, but in a 16-team format, you don't have that problem. So if you want to take the committee aspect out of it, then we go back to the computers and go back to BCS rankings. And you may say, what's the difference between net rankings and BCS rankings? There definitely is a difference. But if we're not going to have net rankings, then the BCS rankings is the next best thing. Now, here is a third option. And this one's more of just like a fun, wild option that's not going to happen. But it would be cool. Or not cool, I guess, but I should say more interesting. And I doubt, again, it will be accepted. But here's my thought. So, we used to have just, pollsters, determine who's the national champion back in the day. Then became the BCS rankings. Then became the playoff committee. Why don't we involve all three? Hear me out. So let's say the selection committee picks Georgia number 1. The BCS rankings concur that Georgia is number 1. And the pollsters that do the AP poll, they concur that, or if you want to do the Colgis poll, either or. But regardless, the pollsters, quote unquote, they say Georgia's number 1. If that's the case, Georgia's number 1. No ifs, buts about it. Georgia's number 1. Now, even if the 2 of the 3 say Georgia's number 1, then Georgia's number 1. Now, if we get to a scenario where the committee says Alabama's number 1, but the BCS rankings say Georgia's number 1, and the pollsters say, oh no, actually Texas is number 1, then you would have to determine a tiebreaker to figure out, okay, which one we're going to go off of. And that's where you need to have like specific guidelines that are agreed to by all the commissioners, like strength of schedule, having some type of things similar to the net rankings, like I mentioned earlier, something like that, where it's a clear tiebreaker. There's no, okay, we're going to apply this tiebreaker for this team, but not for that team, like they do in the committee right now. Like it's a clear tiebreaker scenario where all the teams know what would happen in that scenario. That would be the interesting option, but yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. So my 2 more realistic options is go back to the BCS rankings for tiebreaker stuff, so that way the committee is taken out, or you have the net rankings that the committee can use to make things better, like they do in college basketball. Because in college basketball, there's a couple of like question marks with what the committee does sometimes, but for the most part, it's about who's the last team in, and not about, okay, for the most part, they seeds 1 through 6, for example, pretty much spot on. For example, like there's not a lot of debate there. It's more of the later on seeds like that. There's more debate with. So, again, the goal, if you're going to do the 5-11 format, is to, minimize the committee as much as possible. So that would be my suggestion for how to do it. Again, it's hard. That would be my best answer, but I know there's no perfect way per se, and I know it's a struggle. But it'll be interesting to see what happens, because we may not get an answer like within the next week or 2 or so, but I would imagine by at least the end of this year, like maybe during the season, we'll finally get an answer on how the 2026 format will look. So we'll see how all that goes. Let me know what you think in the comments of your opinion on how the college football playoff format should be. Now, as far as my next podcast though, I'm not gonna say specifically when that will be. Just kind of go with the flow. I know it will be within the next couple of weeks for sure, because I do want to come out with my NBA mock draft, because this is going to be one of the better NBA drafts in a while. So I'm going to do that at some point. But thank you very much for listening to my podcast today. Please subscribe to my channel to learn about me. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.